Hi, I'm Flo Hale, and it's Arts Alive, etc. Well, it's beginning to get a little chilly out there, and we kind of have to talk about heat conservation and how we can keep our homes nice and warm and cozy. And my guests today are Mark Richardson, and with me is somebody that I had here not too long ago, Ewald Schwartzenegger. Now, hey guys, I have a lot of information here, but I am so stupid as to what happens with heat and how to conserve, and I know that you have plans and things that you're going to be doing. So, Ewald, why don't you just give me a brief little rundown
on heat flow or me? Flo.
Well, I'm sure everybody knows you because you've been on the show before, and
okay.
And you're out and about.
Well, basically, the heat from your home generally is going to be oil heat. It's going to be propane heat, and conservation looks into conserving the energy being used. So conservation is very important when you're looking at renewable energies, and so you really need to do, for example, an audit of your home if you wanted to know
what is
you're
renewable
losing.
energy, please.
Renewable energies are those energies that are actually renewable by nature: sunlight, wind, rain, even waves. The tides are also renewable, and the ones that we really are familiar with around here are, for example, geothermal, solar photovoltaic, solar thermal, and wind.
And Mark, tell us about you. Are you a local person here?
I've been living in Greene County for about 17 years, which has been my entire tenure in New York. So,
where are you from originally?
I grew up in Nebraska. I'm from the Midwest.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so a little bit of a roundabout way to get here, but once I got here, I liked it
sure.
enough to stay.
and you and Ewald are working on some interesting projects here as far as the heat, conserving heat and renewable energy, and trying to make our country, I would think, a little more independent.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. When you talk about energy conservation and energy use, one of the topics that always comes up is our dependence on foreign oil and just the use of fossil fuels in general. And I think conservation of energy is a really big part of that.
Sure.
And in going along with that is trying to find some new sources of energy, and that's where we get into the renewable energy fields.
I heard a discussion, and you guys can just jump in here and say, Flo, you have some misinformation, that the windmill that we see rows and rows, and they look so pretty, with those little things going around.
I love them.
And they look beautiful.
Oh, they do.
And I heard a discussion on one of the news programs where it's really not paying off, that the cost of building them and putting them up is really, in the long run, is a waste of money, that the money could be put into other areas for energy.
Well, I could say that right now, because it is sort of a new resource, the technology starts decreasing in cost when you start building more. So if we continue building more windmills and we use that resource, it'll start dropping in cost. But yes, it is not expensive. It is not cheap to produce electricity by wind. So that is an expensive.
Now, what are you guys trying to do? What is it? Are you building a company? Do you have a company? What is going to be your input into this whole new field of energy conservation?
Well, Kaaterskill Associates right now is working on putting together a renewable energy resource center. And the other thing we're looking at starting is also a co-op, an energy co-op. Mark can probably talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, one of the things we're doing, like you all said, is we're trying to start an energy co-op. And essentially what that means is, if you're familiar with the cooperative model of doing things, whether it be agriculture or
right.
what have you, it's a group of people with similar interests who get together and join economic forces to look for essentially a cheaper and better way to do things. And in this case, it's renewable energy. So what we're hoping to do is form a co-op that will allow people to purchase renewable energy products. In other words, things like solar panels, windmills, small hydroelectric possibly, at a better rate than they could get on the open market. And along with that, we hope to provide some instruction and some guidance as far as, system design, what may or may not be the best application for your particular
When you're
situation.
talking about co-op, you're talking about anybody can be in that co-op, homeowners and
Correct.
businesses.
Correct.
You're not just saying like only businesses can be in it, but if there's a certain area, let's say in Kaaterskill or anywhere in Greene County or Columbia County, and you have a group of homes and all these people decide that they want to get in on this, can they go in as individuals or do they have to go in as a group?
It would be individuals, and matter of fact, it's one of the things about the renewable energy costs. It costs a lot of money to install, for example, photovoltaic, solar photovoltaic, or solar thermal, and this will help people be able to afford to install it. And anybody who's interested in this, whether it's a student, whether it's a homeowner who wants to look at reducing energy costs, whether it's a commercial business, a municipality can join the co-op. And we're trying to set up meetings, for example, Rotary clubs, Chamber of Commerce, so we can kind of discuss this. And this is kind of modeled after a co-op in New Hampshire. The co-op, I'm trying to think of the name, Plymouth Area Renewable Energy Initiative.
How does that impact on like Central Hudson or any of the big companies that supply the heat and the electricity for the area? Would you have a problem with them, or do you work through them, or is this a separate entity?
Well, there's a couple of things, and typically the energy companies actually welcome this type of thing because by law in New York State they're required to have a certain percentage of their portfolio, in other words, their energy production, be renewable. It's called the Renewable Portfolio Standard.
Right.
And so they actually welcome this type of thing. They encourage small-scale renewable energy. NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Association.
You can say it, not me, right?
that may be close, but they offer incentives for installing renewable energy. They offer incentives for solar photovoltaic, which is electric production from the sun. They offer incentives for small-scale wind generation and things like that. So they actually welcome that, and they're very cooperative when it comes to installing renewable energy.
This may sound like a strange question, but let's assume that there are some cooperatives that get together, and the C&H is helping with that, which means that some things are being taken away from them. How does that affect myself as an individual? Am I going to find my electrical rates and heating rates going up because they're losing on one end, because even though they are helping the co-ops, but the co-ops are draining off some of their business? Is the individual that's not going to go into the co-op, are they going to be hurt by higher electrical bills?
Actually, back in the 80s, I don't know if you remember this, I'm sure you do, we had, or 70s, you don't remember?
I was born the day after God.
Well, actually, back in the 70s, we had the oil crisis, and we had the, Jimmy Carter had programs for renewable energies. Central Hudson had a program for air-to-air heat pumps, and basically what they were trying to do is make people use more energy in the wintertime because it helped them sell more energy. These power plants are running continuously, and if you're not using energy, guess what? It's still running. So they want to sell this energy that they're actually making. You turn your light on, your light comes on instantly because the energy's there.
Right.
So the benefit is actually it keeps the power companies from having to build new power plants. It's not cheap to build new power plants. So it actually helps them out in the long run on not having to do that and still maintain their existing power plants.
I think an awful lot of PR would have to go into this because most people have a suspicious mind. And even though the C&H or any of the other electrical companies may not technically be losing anything, any corporation will find an excuse to raise rates because they will put in front of you, like, take your television suppliers. Every year, their rates are going up and up and up and up and up, and they're always blaming somebody else for why your TV rates are going up.
Right.
So that seems to me that would be, so that's why I say I think an awful lot of PR would have to go into selling an idea like this and really getting the other electrical, and gas companies behind you to say, look, this is not going to affect the individual. I mean, do you understand? You see where I'm going with that?
It's interesting you say that, if I may. The utility companies have a stronghold on the industry.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you can produce enough electricity to run your meter backwards and what they call net metering. Once you start producing electricity and pushing it back into the system, they don't want to pay for that. They make it very difficult.
Yeah.
And I think what you get back is maybe 2 cents a kilowatt, which you're paying about 17 cents a kilowatt after transferring it over the lines.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want you producing more than what you use, but they make it difficult, and they really have a strong hold on that industry. So they are kind of controlling it in that sense. So you can't be a producer of electricity as a homeowner.
Mm-hmm.